We're one of the few goat farmstead creameries in the nation and very unique for where we're positioned in the middle of Illinois, which is a bit of a dairy desert. Even people that live in town don't always know we exist out here.
The farm was previously distributing some of our award-winning goat cheese up to the Chicago area restaurants through DAF. And then when DAF was selected as a lead agency for Illinois Eats, and Jeffrey and I are beginning farmers, we qualified for purchases through that program. And it's been really exciting partnering with them and getting our cheeses into the food banks and areas that probably wouldn't have access to our style of cheese.
Being our first year, a lot of uncertainty in how it's all going to operate, feeling out what our market is, all the potentials there. Having that extra bump in sales was very important, being able to really get a good foundation for now as we're starting to move forward.
Being a part of this program that allowed us consistent income stream was huge. So we were able to make investments in our compost system and our wastewater management system. And that was all directly funded by sales from this program.